You said you reviewed Mr. Depp's video deposition, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you said you reviewed Mr. Depp's testimony at this trial, correct?
That's correct.
And was that also a video of his testimony?
Yes.
Okay. And you testified that Mr. Depp demonstrated that his hand was flat on a surface, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's not entirely accurate, is it, though?
No, his description was relatively consistent in both, including turning and resting the hand on the edge.
This is Johnny Depp.
Isn't it true, Dr. Moore,
according to
that
him.
when Mr. Depp did the demonstration in his deposition, he showed that his fingers were hanging over the bar?
Well,
Yeah,
even
well-
hanging over the bar, it still leaves the dorsum of the hand or the nail vulnerable.
That's
to
not my question, Dr. Moore. My question is,
Yeah.
isn't it true that Mr. Depp said his fingers were not laying flat on a table, they were hanging over the bar?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Oh,
that- you
wow.
knew that when you made that opinion. Isn't that correct?
Well, I believe that
You
as I
idiot.
demonstrated sitting here, that I said that he had said they were slightly curled over. I think
Or,
was the description that I gave.
wow.
Your description in this courtroom was that it was laying flat, and I think you've done that now twice. But in your deposition, you testified that his fingers were actually hanging over the bar. Isn't that correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Misstates the witness's testimony. He clearly indicated they were curled. Or could have been curled.
Overruled.
So that's
Overruled.
So
Nope. Let's hear it.
That's a distinction that
Jesus
perhaps
Christ.
I, misstated in one of the two descriptions.
Oh.
However, that does not substantially change my opinion of the impact it would have on the mechanism.
Oh, so it was a misstatement. Oh, that makes sense. Of
Is it true that
course.
Mr. Depp also testified that the bottle came from an off angle?
Yes.
Okay. And you consider that in rendering your opinions today, correct?
Yes, I believe he stated that it came from between 6 and 10 feet. I think it was I think he demonstrated it was off to his right. I can't recall specifically, but it was off angle, yes.
Right.
So it didn't come from the top, as you previously testified just a few minutes ago, correct?
Well, no, it would have struck the top of the finger, but it may have been slightly off angle in its approach.
That's interesting.
Based on the description.
Mr. Depp described it as off angle, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Dr. Moore, just at the outset, your billing rate for providing deposition
Oh.
testimony is $1,000 per hour?
That's correct.
I think I know why he's here.
And you were deposed in this action for several hours on March 22nd.
Guys, it's all coming
2022.
together.
That's correct.
And your billing rate for providing trial testimony is $5,000 per day.
That's correct.
You were
Guys.
retained in this case by Ms. Heard's legal team, correct?
Correct.
And over the last few years, you've provided expert services for one of Ms. Heard's law firms on at least 2 other cases, right?
That's correct, yes.
Dr. Moore, is it fair to say that you have no personal knowledge as to how Mr. Depp injured his finger in Australia?
$5,000 a day.
No, I have no personal knowledge. My impression is based on his description of the injury and the available medical records for review.
But you weren't in Australia with
Follow
Mr.
the
Depp
money.
and Ms. Heard,
I
correct?
was not in
Paid
Australia.
actor.
And so therefore you have no personal knowledge as to how that injury was
Right.
sustained.
Correct.
Do you think he cut it
You
off
also never
himself?
personally examined Mr. Depp's finger, did you?
Correct.
No, you didn't.
You didn't examine Mr. Depp's finger at the time it was injured.
No.
I did not.
And you never provided any medical treatment to Mr. Depp in connection with his finger injury, did you?
Of course
I did
not.
not.
Uh-huh.
Now, you've testified
How
that you
convenient.
identified Mr. Depp's finger injury as a crush injury, correct?
Correct.
And a crush injury is when a body part is crushed or trapped between 2 opposing firm surfaces, yes?
Yes.
And a crush injury
Like
to
a
a
barn.
finger can occur when a foreign object hits the finger, right?
Yes.
And based on the pictures that you reviewed of Mr. Depp's finger injury, you cannot determine what particular object caused the injury to his finger, yes?
Well, I can't
No.
determine exactly what object did it. I think that I can say with confidence that the described mechanism of the bottle hitting and shattering the finger was not consistent with the
I
appearance of the
understand
injury.
that.
And
My
I think
question is just very specific. You can't determine the object that caused the injury to Mr. Depp's finger.
Obviously not.
it's a little bit more of a non-specific answer. I mean,
But there's no way you can tell.
Again, I can't
How
determine
could you
the
know?
exact object, but I can determine that it's unlikely
obvious.
that it was sustained in the manner described.
This guy's having a bad
A
time.
bottle is a foreign object, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
It would look that
So
way.
you can't rule out that the injury to Mr. Depp's finger was caused by a vodka bottle, correct?
No, you can't rule that out.
Well, based on the injury pattern, I can say that the described mechanism of injury is inconsistent with medical findings.
That's good. Go back to the script. Read that
But
one
because a
again.
vodka bottle is a foreign object, you can't rule out that a vodka bottle is what caused Mr. Depp's
Just
injury.
say no.
Well, I can't rule out that a vodka bottle caused the injury, but I can rule out that it was caused in the manner described in his testimony.
You can't rule out that the injury was caused by a knife, right?
I think it's unlikely that the injury was caused by a knife.
But you can't rule it out.
Well, if a simple knife laceration wouldn't impart the injury to the distal phalanx to result in the comminuted fracture.
Okay.
Now, a chopping type, but again, that would likely come from a direction that would create a dorsal injury to create the fracture that was developed.
Do you remember giving testimony in this case, Dr. Moore?
Deposition?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. And you were under oath, correct?
correct.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
And that was on March 22nd.
Let's check the
2022.
logs.
Yes?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see the logs.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm ready. Oh my god, bro! Like this guy is a clown. What the fuck? Like you spoke about? Yeah. What the hell are you talking about? $5,000 a day. Yeah. I wonder why he's here. Bro, there's a raid. That's like a Raid Shadow Legends
Moore, may I
partnership.
please have you go to page 163
God damn.
of your deposition, specifically line 17.
Uh-huh. All right. What did he say?
163.
Yeah.
Actually, apologies,
Yeah, thanks for
164.
10 subs, thank you. Man, this guy's having a bad time. I'm gonna tell you that. He's having a bad fucking
Line
time.
4.
Correct.
Question, but you can't rule it out completely, right? Answer, I can't rule anything out completely.
Of course.
I can't rule out that he caught it in the door, cut it with a knife, or slammed it in the car door. Or, again, as Dr. Gilmore said,
Slammed it in
we
a
can't
car door.
definitively say what caused this injury. Did I read that correctly?
You did.
Your Honor, I would object as to
Oh.
incomplete impeachment. I think if she's going to read his answer, she also needs to read or give Dr. Moore the chance to read the paragraph below. She just picked out half of his answer.
You can redirect.
Yeah,
I'll
as
overrule the
well as the
objection.
paragraph above.
Dr. Moore, there's no question pending. Thank you, though.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can't rule out that the injury was caused by
getting
a
upset.
car door either. Is that right?
Correct.
But it's your testimony sitting here today that you can rule out that the injury was caused by a vodka bottle. Is that your testimony?
My testimony is that I can rule out the injury as caused by the mechanism described by Mr. Depp in his deposition.
But you can't definitively say what caused the injury to Mr. Depp's finger.
Well, the definitive injury is a crush injury, again, I can't say. I mean, I think that
We know you can't say.
quite likely that the initial
We know that.
mechanism described at the time of presentation of the accordion doors would classically create this injury pattern. You know, the hand up in front. Picture accordion doors as the edge is closed. If the hand's up, the palm is exposed. If the door's pushed,
But,
the
Dr.
hand
Moore,
closes about the fingers.
I understand that.
Shut up.
But my question is,
I think it's important that they understand that.
this is the time for me to ask you questions. Your counsel will have the ability to rehabilitate you and ask you questions on redirect.
There we go.
Right
There
now,
we go. All right.
Let's try my question.
All right.
You
He's
can't
going
definitively
on,
say
man.
What caused the injury
It's
to Mr.
$1,000
Depp's
an
fingers.
hour,
Yes
okay?
or no?
You try to
No.
make this as big as possible.
In conducting your analysis
Yeah.
of Mr. Depp's finger injury, you did not attempt to reconstruct the incident. Is that right?
What?
Well, I think the incident was reconstructed. You mean did I throw a vodka bottle at something?
No, no, Dr. Moore. I mean, you didn't do any type of accident reconstruction, either computerized or you didn't conduct any type of accident reconstruction of the alleged.
No, that's correct. My opinion is based on the medical records and the clinical images and Mr. Depp's description.
And your analysis is based on an understanding of how Mr. Depp described the exact position of his finger at the time of the injury.
Right.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And your analysis is also based on the assumption that Mr. Depp's hand remained completely still in the instance that a vodka bottle was hurled at him. Yes?
No, my assessment is on his description of the vodka bottle striking the top of his finger.
Well, it didn't hit the top, obviously.
But his hand
it obviously
stayed still,
didn't hit the
according
top.
to your analysis. Yes?
The chose things for 5 subs. For sure.
I guess it was still long enough for the bottle to hit it, but natural reaction would be to try to pull away.
Yeah.
When you perform traumatic finger surgeries, you inquire about the cause of the injuries, correct?
Correct.
Right.
And your best information on that is typically just the self-report of the patient. Yes?
Yes.
Correct.
And your assumption is that the patient is trying to get care. Because the patient is trying to get care, that person, that patient, is generally telling the truth, right?
I would assume that.
You would hope so.
Yeah. You reviewed Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony informing your opinion about Mr. Depp's finger injury, correct?
Correct.
In forming your opinion, did you consider Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony that while Dr. Kipper was providing emergency treatment
Objection,
for
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Depp,
May we approach?
Okay.
Bo, this is like, you know what's so weird about this is like, what do you think happened? Like, let's say his hand was like, it wasn't like this, it was like this, right? Because I would imagine like you have your hand on the side and it's like this, right? So like the bottle would break and it would come down and it would slice your fucking finger. It's like, the thing is, the reason why I'm much more willing to like fill in the gaps with like Johnny's story than Amber's is because Johnny's finger's fucking gone and there's a picture of it and there's supposed to be a finger there. There ain't no fucking finger there. Right? Like I'm willing to, you know, like assume that maybe his hand wasn't exactly where he said it was because there's something that happened. Something
Start
fucking
over.
happened.
because it's important the jury hears this. So in forming your opinion, did you consider Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony that while Dr. Kipper was providing emergency treatment for Mr. Depp's finger injury in Australia in the driveway of the house, Mr. Depp told him that his finger was injured when Miss Heard threw a vodka bottle at him?
Right.
I don't recall that from the deposition. I'd be happy to review it if you have the deposition available.
Did you consider Dr.
Doesn't
Kipper's
remember.
testimony that he recalled
He
that
didn't
Mr.
read it.
Depp's finger was found in the kitchen?
I do recall that.
So you must have also seen Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony that he wasn't the one who actually found the finger, correct?
That's correct.
Dr. Kipper testified that someone he thought was the chef told him he found the finger in the kitchen area,
Thank
correct?
God it wasn't a Wendy's.
I'm going to assume so without reading the deposition now.
Did you review any testimony from Ben King in rendering your opinions today?
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Did you see any of Mr. King's testimony at this trial?
I did not.
So you're not aware that Mr. King testified that he is the one who found Mr. Depp's finger, are you?
No.
Oh.
And you're not aware that Mr. King testified that he found Mr. Depp's finger in the bar area, right?
Correct.
And you're not aware that Mr. King testified he found Mr. Depp's finger in a piece of tissue in the bar area, either?
No.
And you're not aware that Mr. King testified that multiple broken liquor bottles were also found in the bar area, right?
Correct.
If we could please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 1817,
Oh my
which is
God.
already in evidence.
Am I gonna have to click this again? Let me see. I'm gonna put this up just in case there ain't no bad shit here. Like it's just like, but like you can't know. It's about did
And
she
it may be published, please.
I just don't have it yet.
like it's like the question is like did he cut it off himself?
That would help.
Yes.
I don't think he
It's on my
did.
screen at the moment. There we go.
Like I
Thank
There we
you.
go.
I don't think that happened.
Have you ever seen this picture before, Dr. Moore?
No.
So you're not aware that this is the bar area where Mr. King testified he found Mr. Depp's finger?
No.
Do you see that broken vodka bottle in the back corner near the bottom of the bar?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see the blood drops on the floor?
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
Can
I
you
don't
please
know.
pull up Defendant's Exhibit 1820, which is already in evidence?
Okay, that one's fine. That's
Have
brutal.
you seen this picture before, Dr. Moore?
Holy
I
shit.
have not.
So you're not aware that this is also a picture from the bar area where Mr. King testified he found Mr. Depp's finger?
Correct.
Do you see the bloody tissue on the ground at the bottom of the bar?
Yes.
Oh.
Do you see the blood drops around that tissue?
Oh.
Yes.
So you didn't consider any of this evidence in rendering your opinion about how Mr. Depp injured his finger in Australia, did you?
I did not.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Redirect.
It's just, to me, it's so obvious. Like,
Can you pull up Exhibit 1817?
Okay. All right,
that
let's
was just
go.
shown to the witness, please.
let's see it. I'm gonna fucking get this in the way just in case. Like,
And can you
this one's
blow
fine.
up that what
Okay.
Ms. Vasquez referred to as a broken vodka bottle, Michelle, please?
How can you possibly?
Dr. Moore, based on your review of the documents in this case, what did you understand to be the size of the bottle of vodka that Mr. Depp alleged cut off his finger?
The description was that it was a handle, a half-gallon bottle.
And that's bigger than a 750 mil or fifth of liquor, correct?
Who cares?
And what size bottle, if to the extent that's even a bottle, what size does that appear to be? to you?
Wait.
Calls for speculation, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection.
Does that appear to be a handle?
It is.
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection.
You can take that down. Dr. Moore, Ms. Vasquez just
Oh, bro.
asked you about Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony.
I figured it out. I actually figured it out.
Where
Wait for
she
the break.
claims that Mr. Depp allegedly told him that the finger was severed from a vodka bottle. Do you remember that question a few minutes ago?
Objection.
I figured it out.
Overruled.
I do remember that question.
Yes. Thank you. Is that consistent?
Mm-hmm.
That alleged account, is that consistent with the texts you reviewed between Mr. Depp and Dr. Kipper?
No.
And what did those texts say?
As I recall, Mr. Depp indicated that he had cut his finger off.
Now, Ms. Vasquez wouldn't let you finish when you were trying to explain to the jury how Mr. Depp's account of injuring his finger in an accordion door would be perfectly consistent with the photographs you saw. Could you please explain that to the jury?
Oh, an accordion door.
Well, so
He
again,
cut his finger off.
We tend to try to believe.
Yeah, like you
patients
broke your
hope that
arm?
They come in with an honest history initially, and that's a reasonable mechanism for this to have occurred.
Okay.
And again, if you picture your hand up with either a closure of a hinge or a closure of a door, the palmar surface is exposed. If it's caught in that hinge as it closes, it could be
Rips it out.
Be slightly off center. It would pinch that tissue away in a similar fashion.
Yeah.
But because it's below the level of the nail bed, it could create this injury with the fracture, the tissue loss, and preserve the nail bed.
No shot. There'd be like tearing and shit, right? Like, I don't know.
Can you look at page 1?
There'd be like tearing.
Deposition, the one that Ms. Vasquez just showed you.
Yes.
You think it's just like
Objection,
it's
Your
in
Honor.
like a
I'm gonna
little
object on hearsay
perfect
grounds.
square? If it
Your Honor,
gets
she
ripped
only-
off?
Overruled.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Ms. Vasquez asked you a question, and then she read your answer, trying to impeach you, but she only read half of the answer. So I'm going to read the whole answer to the jury, and I'm going to ask you to tell me if I'm reading your answer right, okay? The question is on page 164, line 4, but you can't rule it out completely, right?
Yeah.
And you answered, I can't rule anything out completely.
Obviously not.
I can't rule out that he caught it in the door, cut it with a knife, or slammed it in the car door. Or again,
Right.
as Dr. Gilmore said, we can't definitively say what caused this injury. And then you go on to say, this is where Ms. Vasquez cut you off and didn't let you finish.
I don't think that's in the transcript. Objection.
I'll sustain that.
The rest of your answer that she didn't read to you, Dr. Moore, is the question I can answer is that the mechanism that was described by Mr. Depp and demonstrated by Mr. Depp is inconsistent with the injury pattern that's found on the images and the description.
Okay.
Did I read that right?
Yes.
I think
And
that's fair.
Does that remain your opinion today?
Yes.
Has anything that's been presented to you on cross-examination
Okay.
changed any of the opinions that you hold in this case?
No.
I have nothing further. Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Who's this? Oh, this is the bot. Wait, this is the guy that was laughing and had to
Dr.
leave
Moore.
the room, isn't it?
Can you please tell the jury your full name?
Richard Salter Moore, Jr.,
Where do you work?
Emerge Ortho in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Oh
And
my
what is your
God.
position there?
I'm a shareholder, physician, orthopedic surgeon, practicing hand upper extremity microvascular surgery.
That's the wrong person. I was
For
wrong
how
about
many
that.
years have you been an orthopedic surgeon?
So I completed my fellowship in 1997.
That's almost goddamn.
So for 25 years.
And I believe that you mentioned this, but tell the jury what area of orthopedic surgery in which you specialize.
So I'm a orthopedic surgeon. I finished medical school, went to a 5-year orthopedic surgery residency. At the completion of my residency, I wanted to specialize in hand surgery. So I did an additional year
hand
of training
surgery.
specifically in hand and upper extremity surgery before starting
it's a rerun?
in my first year as an attendant.
Wait, refresh? Okay, let me refresh.
You mentioned a little bit of it just now.
So
Okay.
I attended University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, graduated in 1987
Okay, there we go. Let's
with a
refresh.
BS in biology. I went on to medical school at UNC and graduated in 1991. I then went to
One
the
guy.
hospital, the University
Go
of
back in
Pennsylvania
the go back in the logs.
Philadelphia.
Parma
Did a 5-year
Parma
orthopedic
Bano.
surgery residency there. And in 1996, I went to Duke University Medical Center and did a year fellowship in hand, upper extremity, and microvascular surgery. And on completion of my fellowship, I was invited to join the faculty, and my role was hand and trauma. And so I went to Los Angeles for about 6 months for a preceptorship in pelvic trauma, and then went back to Duke and practiced as the director of the orthopedic trauma service and a member of the hand, upper extremity, and microvascular reconstruction team until 2000 when I relocated to North Carolina.
What's that little bow?
Wilmington.
What is that?
And you maintained an active clinical practice since
What's that little bow?
2000? And before that when you were at Duke, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just very briefly, can you tell the jury what is a residency?
Residency is
That's a doctor's thing.
largely an apprenticeship. So when you finish medical school,
That's
you
a
have
good way to say
MD
it.
medical
I never
degree,
thought of it like
but
that.
you really
That's true.
can't practice medicine, and you take a tract of internal medicine.
Yes,
or
you're like
pediatrics
Colonel
or
Sanders.
OBGYN
You're
or
right.
orthopedics, and then it's a graduated training program anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 years.
And what's a fellowship?
And a fellowship is a year beyond training. When I completed my residency, had I chose to, I could have practiced as a general orthopedic surgeon. But I wanted to subspecialize, and therefore that required an additional year of training.
And I believe you mentioned this, but your subspecialization was in the hand, is that right?
That's correct.
Why did you choose to specialize in the hand?
Patient population, the types of problems we treat, and the anatomy is really the biggest reason I chose it. I mean, for lack of a better term, it's really pretty beautiful anatomy.
And let's talk about that anatomy. There's bones in the hand, right?
Okay.
And then there's
All
tissue
right.
and blood vessels, right?
Objection leading.
That's good. It's a man passionate about his
I'm
craft.
sorry, you can go ahead and answer that.
Yep.
I like
that's
that.
correct.
And what is the surgery called where you operate on tissues and blood vessels in the hand?
A hand job.
Well, that would be hand surgery. I mean, there are different components of it. There's
I guess
trauma
that make
where
more
we
sense.
do repairs of tendons or blood vessels. There's a microvascular element where we repair injured nerves. In my practice at Duke, I was on the replant team, and so we would do replantations when digits were cut off. We would try to reattach the bones and tendons and nerves and vessels to.
I think I know why he's here.
Reattach the digits, and hopefully I'm survive.
I have a feeling I
And
know
have
why
you
he's here.
performed surgeries of that nature?
Yes.
Just a
When you perform
guess.
surgeries of that nature, what assessment do you make of the cause of those injuries?
whose witness is this?
So cause
Whose
is
is
a
it?
big element. It's an important element to appreciate
Amber's?
because it can
Okay.
impact management in a lot of those settings. You know, there's a difference between a laceration caused by a razor blade
Yeah.
and a laceration caused by, say, a serrated knife.
That
There's
would make
a
sense.
larger zone of injury. So what we anticipate having to manage is based on how the injury was created. There's also other elements, contamination. You know, farmyard injuries are totally different than clean injuries, and kitchen injuries with raw chicken are totally different than some other settings. And so it does play a large role in management.
After your fellowship at Duke University, I believe you mentioned you had another role at Duke for a few years. Is that right? Can you tell the jury about that?
So I did my fellowship and I joined the faculty as an assistant professor, and so I was in charge of teaching residents and fellows.
Yeah.
I was the director of the orthopedic trauma service, and I was on the hand call team in addition.
Have you had academic
Is the
appointments
volume
at
good or
any
not?
universities other than Duke?
I have a
Is volume
adjunct, assistant professor appointment
It's a
at the
bit
University
low.
of North Carolina.
I'll
Chapel
turn it
Hill,
up
which
slightly.
has affiliated training programs in the center where I practice now.
Have you held any leadership positions in your field?
I've been an officer and the past president of the North Carolina Society of Surgeons of the Hand, the Duke Hand Club or Society now.
All right, that should be better.
I'm a member of the American Society of Surgery of the Hand, of the Orthopedic Trauma Association, of the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgery, and of the American Orthopedic Association, the AOA.
Okay. So this guy's got a lot of experience.
Are the majority of your surgeries
basically
hand
it.
surgeries?
Yes.
How many hand surgeries, ballpark, would you say you've performed in your career?
Over 25 years, thousands.
Jesus. That's a whole lot.
Have you seen finger injuries similar to the one sustained by Mr. Depp in Australia?
Yes.
Okay.
And have you evaluated injuries like that?
Yes.
Have you treated injuries like that?
Yes.
Have you operated on fingers that looked like that?
Yes.
Okay.
How many times? Ballpark.
Hundreds, if not more.
That's a lot. God
What
damn.
does it mean to be board certified in your field?
So
bored of being
board
certified.
certification is a process that that you pursue after you complete training. So at the time, there have been some changes, but at the time that I finished my training,
never mind.
after residency, we took a written examination,
Mm-hmm.
and if you passed the written examination, you had to practice for 2 years. At the end of that 2 years, you submitted a list of cases over 6 months to the board, and they picked 12 cases, and then you gathered up 10 and went to Chicago and had an oral examination based on those cases.
Okay.
And if you passed the oral examination, then you were board certified.
I mean, that makes sense.
And your board certification is in what?
Holy
orthopedic
shit.
surgery.
We get it.
What is a certificate of added qualification?
So in the event that you elect to
Don't they only have a
to
limited
do
amount of time
fellowship
here?
and subspecialized, hand surgery is one of the specialties that you can
What? We get it.
apply for a certificate of added qualification. And so
Yeah, we get
once
it.
I was board certified, I practiced
He-
for an additional year or two, had to resubmit a list of cases.
He
and take a
knows.
written examination.
He
to
knows
become
stuff. I
certified
get it.
in hand surgery.
Uh-huh.
Do you teach other surgeons how to do hand surgery?
Yeah.
Occasionally, on occasion, yes.
Okay.
When was the last time you did so?
Swag to answer 10
Day
subs.
before yesterday.
Tell the jury
Damn.
about that.
Okay.
I was over the weekend.
This guy's
I
working.
went to Miami to
On the weekend, too.
serve as faculty for a course, bioskills course we call it, on shoulder and wrist surgery. And surgeons come in and we have case presentations and panels, and then they had a cadaver lab, and we were able to allow them to perform the surgery in cadavers to become familiar with the equipment.
That's how they made
Have you
Godric the
published in your
Grafted.
field
I have.
in peer-reviewed literature?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, we'd like to offer Dr. Moore as an expert in the field of
Okay.
orthopedic surgery, and
All right, we're here.
specifically hand surgery and injuries to the hand.
All right, any
Okay,
objection?
let's see
No
it.
objection, Your Honor.
So moved. Yes, sir.
Dr. Moore, now we get to talk about this
Mm-hmm.
case. At our request, what have you reviewed, just general categories of information have you reviewed at our request in this case?
So a tremendous
Nothing.
amount of material. I reviewed the video deposition and trial testimony of Mr. Depp regarding the injury.
Yeah.
The medical records from Australia, the photographs
Right.
of the injury from Australia and
Right.
Los Angeles, texts and emails, the deposition of Dr. Kipper,
That's the guy that costs $100,000 a month.
and I'm sure there's more.
And
And when you reviewed the deposition of Mr. Depp, was that just in paper form?
It was a video deposition.
so he
And
watched
so what did
it.
you
Okay.
review of that deposition?
the section where he describes the injury.
And did you see a video of him describing it?
I did.
And you watched the testimony from this trial of him describing it?
Yes.
And you mentioned that you reviewed some texts as well. What are those?
If he didn't look at the hand, why is he here?
There were communications amongst.
Shouldn't he be able
Mr.
to
Depp
evaluate
and his
it?
Physician and others.
And what
He
did
listened
you
to him
specifically
talk about it.
review in those texts relating to the finger injury?
The
Well,
fuck?
in relation to the finger, there was a text where he had stated he cut his finger off.
Now, Dr. Moore, I'm going to ask you some questions about this case regarding the opinions that you formed relating to Mr. Depp's finger injury.
Based off of him talking
When I
about
ask you
it.
those questions, do you agree to answer my questions to a reasonable degree of medical probability?
Yes.
And do you agree to advise the jury and the court if you are not answering any of them to a reasonable degree of medical probability?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's see what he says.
Dr. Moore, based on your analysis, did Mr. Depp's finger injury happen as a result of a vodka bottle being thrown at him?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No.
He's like, how do you
And
know
what is
that?
the basis for that opinion?
Well, the medical data is inconclusive. It's not consistent with what we see in the described injury pattern or in the clinical photographs. And there are several elements. There's the description was of the hand being flat on a bar and the bottle crushing the finger from the top. But looking at the images, there's really no significant injury to the dorsum of the finger, and to create the type of injury with that type of a crush injury, we would anticipate both injury to the fingernail and other parts of the finger.
Can I stop you there and just break down a few things? You said that
How do you
hand
think it
resting
happened then?
flat on the bar. Can you show the jury what direction the hand was resting based on the documents you've reviewed?
I think that the demonstration was with the hand flat, like this, across and maybe even curled over the edge of the bar like this.
Which side was facing upward? Which side of the hand?
The back of the hand, or we call it the dorsal surface of the hand, was up.
Doctor, if you could get closer to the microphone.
Oh,
I'd just appreciate
sorry.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I don't
So
understand.
You referred to the back of the hand as the dorsal side of the hand. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
Like a
Sort of
dorsal
like
fin.
the dorsal fin on a shark.
That's exactly what I was
Correct.
thinking.
Fair. And what is the other side of the hand called?
The palmar surface.
Palmar? Okay.
Yeah.
So what direction was Mr. Depp's hand resting on the bar?
So the dorsal side was up, which with the descripted mechanism of injury or the injury, the bottle would have struck the top of the finger at the fingernail.
And you also mentioned a term that I'd like you to explain to the jury, crush injury, please.
So with review of the images and the x-rays, I mean, this was a crush injury. That would generate the findings clinically on x-ray that we saw. The fracture is we call it comminuted, and the tip of the finger is in multiple splinters, so there are multiple fragments, and typically you see that with a crush type injury.
So
Okay.
a comminuted fracture is one where there's multiple fragments
Sure.
of
Yeah,
bone.
that makes
That's
sense.
correct.
And what was the basis,
Alrighty.
other than what you've read and heard, but from the pictures, what was the basis
Typically, yeah.
of your
Okay.
opinion that the hand was resting palmar side down?
Well, that was the way the injury was described and demonstrated in the videos. And so in that position, were the bottle to strike the finger the way it was described, it would have struck on the nail, and the nail was really not injured, and so that's not consistent with that pattern of injury.
Michelle, could
Well,
I
what
get
do you
to
think
pull up,
happened then?
Exhibit DX369, page 26.
But I wonder, but then
Your Honor,
how?
this is admitted. Ask for permission to publish.
But how do you think it happened in this case, right? Oh my God.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Can I show that? Probably not.
Dr. Moore, is this one of the images that you reviewed?
Jesus.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Tell us in relation
That's
to
brutal.
your expert opinion on the cause of Mr.
God
Depp's injury.
damn.
Tell us what you see in this picture, please.
Should I put something
this
over
is
that? That's bad.
It looks like an avulsion type
put an
injury
image over that.
where tissue's actually pulled or pinched away. I think
Jesus.
what's important in this picture is that the tissue loss
Oh, that's a
is
bad one to
on the
use.
palmar aspect from underneath the finger rather than all transversely in the finger, which you would anticipate if the bottle struck the finger. You would
Okay, I'll
expect
put
more of
right there.
this level of injury rather than isolated to the palmar aspect.
And what do you notice about the
Jesus.
condition of the fingernail in this picture?
So from this image, the fingernail appears to be intact.
It's blocked because of gore.
You can't necessarily see the entire nail, but there
That's
are other
brutal,
images that have a
man.
better profile of that. And the nail's not elevated. It's not. There's no subungual hematoma beneath it, or there's no bruise underneath
Oh
it.
my
Anyone that's ever stuck
God.
their finger in a drawer or caught it in a car door or hit with a hammer knows that almost immediately there's typically bleeding underneath the nail, which creates this hematoma.
So, not being a doctor, I'm
Yeah.
going to try to summarize what you just said. Are you saying that in an injury like this, if something had come from the top, that there would be an
Yo, it's
immediate
unreal. I
impact
know.
to the fingernail bed?
That's correct.
Michelle, could you please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit
Holy fuck.
144? Your Honor, this has been admitted
That
as well.
shit was gone, bro. I thought it was just like a deep cut. Oh my God, bro! What
Dr. Moore,
the?
I believe
Holy
you mentioned
shit!
just a few minutes ago that there were other pictures that showed more
God
of the
fucking
nail.
damn!
Is this one of those pictures?
Yes.
And explain to the jury.
I ain't
again,
gonna
I'm
show
sorry
this
for
shit.
the graphic nature of this photo, but it's important that the jury understands the basis for your opinion.
Oh my
that
God!
the bottle couldn't have caused this coming in
wow.
from above.
Yeah. So it's again.
It's like
the
imagine
mechanism
somebody's finger like
described
this,
would
but like this whole part's
almost
gone.
certainly led to severe nail injury. You know, I see no subungual hematoma. Again, it's a palmar tissue loss, and the loss is from distal to proximal, which is from the tip back far below the nail. And so for it to create that tissue loss down there would almost certainly have to be injury dorsally with that described mechanism.
So what you're saying is that something coming from the top could not have left the nail intact and yet caused injury from the tip of the finger underneath the nail.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Wow.
You can answer.
Yeah, y'all don't want to
so,
see this.
so
Like
I
y'all do
believe
not
that,
want to see this shit.
With the mechanism described,
This is
that
brutal.
If the bottle struck the nail, there would have certainly been
Holy
an injury
fucking
to the nail
shit.
bed. And in order for the soft tissue injury to be created by that mechanism, there would have almost certainly been tissue loss on the top of the finger as well.
Does Mr. Depp's description of what happened line up with the undisputed photographic evidence that you've reviewed?
No.
Now, we mentioned the term crush injury a few minutes ago.
Then how do you think it happened? That's bad. I never thought it was this bad.
I'd
Holy
like to show
fuck,
you
bro!
DX360, please.
Like that's
Your Honor,
brutal.
This is, we won't publish this at this time.
Good.
Is this a document that you reviewed in connection with your expert opinion in this case?
Yes.
And
Holy shit.
Michelle, if you can please go to pages, I believe they're 5 and 6. Your Honor, I would ask for permission to publish these as a demonstrative.
Bro, I ain't gonna pull this shit up. Like y'all do not want to see
sorry,
this.
Sorry.
It's fine now. I don't
09
know.
and 10.
Page
Two
09
pages.
and 10.
I'm not sure,
Go
man.
to 10 also, so plaintiff can see it. Okay, any objection to 09?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, 09, 10
Like this
can be
looks like some like
published.
if I saw that randomly, I would think
Dr.
it was
Moore,
fake.
what are these pictures?
That's how brutal it
So
was.
these are
Okay,
X-rays
this is a
of
skeleton.
the injured digit.
And what do you observe in these X-rays? Explain to the jury what you see.
So these are two views. So one in the plane looking through the finger in this direction, and one in the plane looking through the finger sideways. And you can see that the tuft or
That
the,
shit is
the
busted.
tip of the finger.
That's butt.
the
Oh
last
my
opposing
God, that's
finger called
busted.
The distal phalanx is shattered. You can see there's multiple little spicules of bone.
God damn.
And there's also a transverse fracture at that level, which runs through the bone. So this is what we would describe as a comminuted fracture, and it's commonly associated with crush injury.
Oh.
In your decades of practice, Dr. Moore, have you ever seen a comminuted fracture like this result from an object thrown in the way that Mr. Depp described?
Well, not with the constellation of findings shown on the X-rays. I mean, I think that could create a fracture, but in this setting, it wouldn't create a fracture with without the associated other injuries that we would anticipate.
And in your decades of practice, when you see a comminuted fracture like this, what are some things that have typically caused it?
So crush mechanisms could
That's
be
brutal, man. Holy
slammed
shit.
in a drawer, caught between two logs in the fireplace, car door, sliding glass door. Those are all any mechanism that squeezes the finger between two hard opposing surfaces could create this type of injury.
In the statements of Mr. Depp that you reviewed, how did he describe what happened to the alleged bottle when it hit the bar?
I believe he said it exploded, shattered.
If a bottle had exploded near his finger in the way that he alleges, what would you expect to see in the documents that you have reviewed?
Well, I think that the physicians did a good job of documenting the presentation, the appearance of the wound. They did not document the presence of any glass shards, and there were no other associated injuries elsewhere on the hand.
And I just want to step back for 1 minute. Michelle, can you pull up the next page of the X-ray here?
Okay. All right. We see it.
Thank you. And Dr. Moore,
so
just
it's a
before
little
we
bit
move on from
split.
X-rays, can you? I know that this, when it's blown up like this, it's a little bit blurry. But can you point out or describe to the jury where the multiple bone fragments are in the finger?
So they're in the very tip. If you see the joint,
yeah, I can see it.
And then there's what we call the transverse fracture, which is across the middle of the bone in the same plane.
That
as
seems
the joint.
fucked up. I'm gonna say that for sure.
Fragments are in the tuft, with a Xerox copy, the quality is not as detailed as a true X-ray.
This versus Amber. Isn't this crazy? This is what happens whenever you get really injured.
To the glass.
Is you go to the doctor, they have X-rays.
Dr. Moore, did you see
and medical records? That's what they do.
Adjacent injuries, in other words, injuries to any other part of Mr. Depp's hand other than the tip of his middle finger?
No.
So.
And is that observation consistent with the explosion of glass type phenomenon that Mr. Depp alleges?
Well, I think in the setting of a glass explosion like that, where there's multiple fragments and the tip of the fingers cut off, you would anticipate that there would be other lacerations.
Did you review the documentation in the medical records from the hospital in Australia?
Yes.
Did any of those providers report retrieving glass from the wound?
No.
What about any glass near the site of the injury?
No.
What about any glass in other parts of the hand?
No.
What about any glass in any of the other fingers?
No.
Is there any reference at all, Dr. Moore, that you've seen to any glass in the records that you've reviewed?
No.
And Dr. Moore, in your decades of practice, have you ever seen an injury associated with a glass explosion that was focused on the end of a single finger in the way Mr. Depp describes?
Well, not consistent with the clinical images and the findings in this case, no.
Okay.
Have you ever seen an injury associated with an alleged glass explosion where no other glass was found on any part of the patient's body or clothing or anything?
No.
And because there's been talk of a glass explosion, Dr. Moore, there's seems to have been a suggestion that somehow glass may have sliced off the end of Mr. Depp's finger. Is that what's going on here?
That's what it seems like.
This wound doesn't really appear to be a sharp glass laceration.
Then what is it?
You referred earlier to an avulsion.
What is
which
it?
is a term I had never heard before your opinion in this case.
Then
Explain
what
to
is
the
it?
jury what that is, please.
So
Wait.
often with crush injuries and we'll see tissue loss that we call an avulsion, or where the tissue's actually pinched or pulled away rather than sliced or cut. And it's not uncommon with crush injuries to see that.
In your decades of practice, Dr. Moore, have you ever seen an avulsion injury with a partial amputation that results from an object thrown from the top of the finger?
From the top of the
In
finger.
the way that Mr. Depp describes.
Like, that's such a
Again,
qualifying
I think
statement.
that the description differs from the clinical appearance on the images.
Oh my God.
Michelle, can you please pull up Exhibit 369 at page 12?
What are they?
This
Yeah,
has
it's
been
like
admitted, Your Honor.
next they're gonna say it's not even his finger.
Sure.
Is this a bad boy? I'm gonna put this up just in case.
Dr. Moore, you said you've treated thousands of hand injuries over the course of your career.
Let me
correct?
see what it is.
What is that on Mr. Depp's hand?
So we describe
Oh,
that
they're
as
not
a
showing
Objection
it.
calls for speculation.
The picture just changed.
Sorry.
Oh,
Page
there it
12.
is. Bro, that shit's fucked up.
Okay.
Oh no, his hand's fine now.
What is that on Mr. Depp's hand?
So that's a plaster
I'm sorry.
splint.
Overruled the objection.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
They put his hand in there.
I'm sorry. Please tell the jury what that is on Mr. Depp's hand.
So that's a plaster splint.
Got it.
A half a cast is how I sometimes describe it to patients, and it provides stability for comfort and to protect fractures in the course of treatment.
Is that plaster splint hard or soft?
What's plaster Paris? It hardens like a cast does.
Okay.
Dr. Moore, does Mr. Depp's description of how his finger became injured line up with the facts that you've seen?
No.
I have no further questions.
All right,
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
No, it doesn't.
Cross-examination.
Wow, what a way to end it. I guess it means he cut it off himself. Damn, bro. I guess he cut that shit off himself. You know, he likes to play guitar. He
Good
said,
morning, Dr.
fuck
Moore.
that. I said, it's gone, bro.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Moore, you're free to go, or you can stay in the courtroom.
I-
It's up to you. All right.
The
Thank you.
entire test. This is what I was
Your
going to
next
say.
witness?
Your Honor, we'd like to call Dr. David Spiegel.
Dr. Spiegel.
The entire context of this was under the pretense of a larger bottle.
All right, that's fine. Yes, sir.
You heard him say that? He was talking about a mega bottle. And that's why he said the crush injury was impossible. So he gave, yeah, that's his $5,000, by the way. That was $5,000 for him. You just saw that guy make $5,000. So he gave his entire testimony and medical opinion on this based off of a size of a bottle that's clearly not even shown in the pictures. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not even that he's wrong, it's that he's starting on the wrong foot. And it's like, also, do you think that he cut it off himself? That's what I wish Camille had asked him that. Do you think he cut it off himself? Or even better yet, what do you think happened? Yeah, you should have asked him that. I really, that's speculation. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe that is speculation. I guess that could be it. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. That's what I would fucking wonder, though. I would say that for sure. He said a hinge door. I mean, maybe that's it. All I'm saying is, it's just so annoying that somebody would say this. And, also, how many of you guys have ever dropped something and then, that thing that you drop, it fucking goes somewhere. It's like you drop it on the floor and it's, over there, right? Or, some stupid shit. Is it really... Is it unrealistic that drunk people on drugs could have thrown a bottle in a way that you couldn't predict, or maybe he didn't remember quite exactly where he had his hand? Because, again, the reason I'm willing to fill in the gaps here is that I don't think he would have cut off his own finger. I don't think this happened. It's also, there's no evidence, really. It's we have so much evidence of Johnny Depp being drunk and high. Guys, we have a lot of evidence of that. I'm talking about Like, I'm pretty sure that, like, that's a fact at this point. Like, we know this. There's not really been a single other case that I can think of any, maybe, like, a serious nature where he's ever hurt himself. He's never hurt himself in the process of doing this. You see what I'm saying? Like, this has never happened before. So, like, what are the odds that this has happened? And there's no history of self-harm. There's nothing like that. It's just weird to see that. Yeah, what a cock. Yeah, it could be an accident. It could be an accident, but what I'm saying is, like, I feel like even whenever you're drunk and shit like that, if he cares about his hands that much, especially he's an actor, right? Like, that's somebody who cares about their body. They don't want to fuck themselves up. And he cares about that kind of stuff, and it just didn't happen. I don't know, man. And there's evidence. Yeah, exactly. There's evidence. I think the strategy is to prove the injury was not documented properly to remove it from the case to have less stuff to deal with. Well, it's just like, you can't just remove that from the case and expect people to not fucking take that seriously, man. It's so obvious what's going on. That's what's pissing me off about this, is like, what do you think happened to the fucking hand? Do you think it just, like, one day it's just fucking, he pulled like a Harry Potter thing? He was, practicing for Grindelwald, and he just fucking snapped his finger and part of it fucking disappeared? Like, what the fuck, man? Like, why would he do that? Like, why would this possibly fucking happen, man? It doesn't make any sense. Now, I do think that a bit of evidence that's, like, kind of compelling is the fact that, like, what do you call it? Is the fact that none of the other parts on his hand were cut. This is what I think could have happened, right? Is that the bottle broke into two, and the large side of the bottle, either the top or the bottom half, because that's usually how bottles break, came and it fell down and it sliced it, right? That's kind of like what happened. Like, I think it was probably like that. And maybe he was moving his hand at the same time, or like it happened initially and then he fucking jerked his hand and it cut it even more because he didn't see what the hell was going on. Like, I could see something like that maybe happening.